February 18, 1977, a black car streaked through the streets of Lagos, Nigeria. Segun Adams and Segun Ademola raced through the gates of a small compound. The gates closed immediately behind them, and the boys staggered into a building as their pursuers, 8 Nigerian soldiers, began beating on the gate and calling for them to come out. The owner of the building, Fela Kuti, stepped out. The soldiers demanded that Fela turn over the 2 men, stating that their car's license plate wasn't in the correct place. Fela's response was to turn on an electric fence that surrounded the compound. The 8 soldiers left the gates and returned with nearly 1,000 soldiers from a nearby barracks. The soldiers set fire to the compound's generator and cut the power, allowing them to enter. Eyewitness reports state that the soldiers attacked the nearly 60 men and women living in the compound. The soldiers brutally beat the men, including Fela, and assaulted the woman. Amid the chaos, a figure fell from the 2nd story. A soldier had pushed Fela's 77-year-old mother from the balcony. The soldiers burned the compound to the ground and left. Officials would later report that the attack was a drug raid on the home, but Fela knew that the real reason wasn't because of drugs or about the traffic violation. This wasn't Fela's first interaction with the military. He was an Afrobeat musician from Nigeria, which the Nigerian Armed Forces ruled over as a type of military dictatorship. Fela was furious about the mistreatment of the Nigerian people by the armed forces and the Nigerian elite. This anger and criticism often made its way into his music, made popular by people in Nigeria and spread around the world. The music embarrassed the Nigerian armed forces and drove them to act. 3 years before the 1,000-soldier raid, Nigerian police raided Fela's home for weed. At that point, owning marijuana would mean arrest, and dealing weed and other substances would mean death, giving authorities a way to quiet Fela permanently. The police didn't discover any drugs in the raid. However, a week later, the police planted a joint on Fela. The musician discovered the attempt and promptly swallowed the joint. Undeterred, the police arrested him, planning to test his excrement for weed when he relieved himself. Fela instead chose to wait until evening to relieve himself and arranged a swap with another prisoner, resulting in the police having to release him. Fela returned to his home, deciding to shape it into a compound that included a free clinic and a studio. He named the compound Calcutta Republic after the Calcutta cell where he had stayed while in prison. He declared Calcutta Republic as its own sovereign nation, separate from Nigeria. Fela also released songs speaking out about the incident, the pinnacle of these being Zombie, where he compared the Nigerian soldiers to brainless zombies. It was this song that broke the camel's back, and the soldiers attacked Calcutta Republic that same year, burning it down, beating Fela's friends and band members, and throwing his mother from the balcony. Fela's mother later died from her injuries, and the soldiers kept the residents of the Calcutta Republic in jail for roughly a month after the attack. Anger raged within Fela. He knew he had to act, had to speak up against the injustice. He had to let everyone know that the raid wasn't a simple drug raid, but that the Nigerian armed forces had blood on their hands this time. Fela led a march to the head of state's home, who commanded the soldiers involved in the attack. Fela carried with him a casket that he delivered to the front of the house. Many believe that the casket carried his mother. Fela wrote the song "Coffin for the Head of State," an unknown soldier that described the attack. Fela would never truly be free from the Nigerian authorities. They encouraged tabloids to publish stories about the women in his music group, making claims that he was kidnapping them. Fela's response was to marry all 27 women in this group, in part to commemorate the 1-year passing of the attack on Calcutta, and in part to protect them from further allegations. Friends of Fela would later rebuild Calcutta in 2012 and transform it into a museum, a restaurant, and a hotel, as well as a grave for Fela, who died in 1997.